The Egyptian pyramids were built as an energy grid, and they were built to work in conjunction with other pyramids that are made of stone in that region or that area of the world. Anywhere where there's a lot of sun. And the Egyptians used it. Yes, it provided power. It could have provided a lot of other things as well, but so could a lot of the buildings that are built around Europe and around the UK and around Africa. I mean, there's been a lot of stone buildings built over the years that have, over the thousands and thousands of years, that have a specific purpose of generating energy as a byproduct of extracted from the atmosphere, as like an emerging property of their design and their location on the earth and the nature in which they interacted with the land and the water. But the Egyptians used the power of the sun, and they used it for a specific purpose. They used it to create a directed energy weapon. That technology being present since Egypt, and they had a big convex lens, and they channeled the power of the sun, and they fired from that lens a beam of concentrated sunlight at a very specific point in the sky, right, out of the universe, off the planet, and they fired at a particular point. They were taught to do this by the serpent on their head. The serpent on their head took them from alchemy, gave them a bastardized form of alchemy, and then enchanted them with numbers. Given the knowledge to build the pyramids. Because the pyramids were built for that snake. They were built. The idea that the Egyptians worshipped the sun. Yeah, if you worship the sun might appear at the top of the pyramids. But ultimately, if you wanted to ascend, you had to go down into the pitch black darkness of the pyramid and then disappear through a fucking tunnel this big, and then your soul heads out through a specific point in the sky that goes through a fucking wormhole or a snake hole. And then you go into the Duat, the underworld, and then you meet a succession of quarry gods, of like Egyptian eating snake quarry fucking godhead people recycled things, and then your body is recycled, not reincarnated, recycled, like, as quarry. That snake that they worshipped turned the Egyptians into cattle. It dominated their minds, and it made them attack this specific point in the sky. The specific point in the sky that they attacked was the black sun of the alchemists, which has been largely eradicated from history, but has ghosted its way through. It's that circle with like all the lightning shit that comes out of it that fucking SS used in the Nazis. They had that symbol as their motif, but that's not where it come from. The black sun of the alchemists is the point of this universe where the universe is filled with consciousness. And it comes from a particular source. And the Egyptians were told to attack it by that snake. And that was, I believe, the beginning of a descent of our consciousness, an incremental reduction of our consciousness at the same time as being convinced that we are evolving. All of these sciences and that come from Egypt, numbers. Numbers are snake magic. Right? Unfortunately, I know scientists might not want to hear this if you watch it anyway, but they have been used to put people's head to paper and keep us scribbling away without ever then engaging in true alchemy. Like, alchemy is a tree. It has branches. It has a big fat chunk. It has roots. You can climb the tree. You can climb the tree and jump on the branches. It has fruits on those branches. Those fruits will fall into other fields. Those fruits will grow other trees, bigger trees that you can also swing across and climb. Alchemy, magic, and the Egyptians stopped doing this, and they brought in fields, like field science. All science is classed as fields. All of academia is a field. Everything is a field. Politics has two wings. They are not like a natural development of primates. They are the home of recycled quarry. They are the forte of recycled quarry. People who are still primate-like, still have tribal sensibility, still are deeply connected with our common sense. The second you start to climb that pyramid, you realise it's cleaving parts of you incrementally, and it demands that you sacrifice bigger and bigger parts of yourself if you want to go any further. The recycling process of the Duat has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. The social status that you are born with is decided before you were born. And it's decided because the process of your rebirth is being controlled, of our rebirth is controlled. And it's been controlled by that fucking snake. But the people that don't surrender it, we just get shit out at the bottom. And we can climb the pyramid if we want, but if we do that, then we seem to know there's a deep, deep knowledge in our bodies, there's a deep recoiling in our heart, where we understand that we are being farmed. And you can keep climbing if you want, you'll be rewarded in this life. But if you don't, you'll be shit out and you'll be lashed between lives and you'll be marked for a certain amount of suffering for whatever, because you won't surrender. Now they have used the power of the sun and they have attacked the black hole of the alchemist. That, like I said, that has begun an incremental descent. That we are still going there, and that it's increasing in velocity because people are still doing science, psychology, and mathematics and thinking that is the way to understand the universe. It isn't. Like, they don't understand anything about consciousness, but apparently the Egyptians studied consciousness for 3,000 years, and then they started worshipping a snake, and that snake had studied consciousness for a lot longer, and it also studied how to create the perfect way to manipulate primates, which were its perfect quarry, into surrendering themselves willingly. But it can't do it to all of us, because some of us still have that sense, a deep sense that we are being manipulated. If you were born into an elevated social class, then you died in an elevated social class. You were recycled into an elevated social class, and the shame that you feel through your society is the shame that you have as not contributing to the field in which you are destined to go into adequately. But it's a task that's given to you by a serpent. How do I know that? I've fucking seen it. Seen it. Not on purpose, I didn't mean to. I got gripped when I was climbing a tree, and I got thrown out of it by a much bigger monkey, So alchemy branches from, it's not flat, it branches out into other dimensions, and if you climb it spiritually, like an angry little disagreeable chimp that's not going to surrender to any stupid fuckers that pop up in your field of vision to try and enchant you, then you'll keep going, and if you don't do it with this open mind of let's just see all the pretty colours and the shapes and now what else have you got? Come on, show me what it is like. You'll be beaten to death for it, and that's what's happened to me. So, and then you fall, you get thrown out of that tree, and then on the way down, I managed to see. I was lucky enough to see that a convex beam of light being shot from that pyramid out of the universe, and I also saw the other side of that and what's on the other side. Well, that began a big descent, and it was directed by that fucking snake. That snake has been in all of our history, but we've only got a few thousand years of it. Now, this gets blamed on our leaders, or this gets blamed on the ego of men, and it's not the ego of men. I mean, yeah, we are assholes. Yeah, we are disagreeable dickheads, and it is pretty easy to get us to punch each other if you want. If you put a lot of effort into it, intergenerational effort into getting us to hate each other, you can do that, But you can't do it if we're all right. You can't do it if we have a connection to our family, if we have a way of generating a decent existence for our family that doesn't require us to sacrifice, or doesn't require us to shame ourselves and humiliate ourselves to do it. It's very difficult to make us turn on people that we see as our type. We're loyal like that, and we're loyal cross colours, and we identify with just people who have suffered from other places and other parts of the world as well. It doesn't take long for us to have a conversation with someone from anywhere and realise that, oh yeah, we're the same type, we just got the same type of shit lives, same type of crazy women, same type of stupid fucking parents, shitty job prospects. And our leaders are generally stupid, and our religious leaders are fucking idiots, and most of them will try to dip a wick in some of our kids at some point. And we've all got those same problems. But the reason we all have that same problems is because that pyramid has existed the world over for a long time in many different forms. I mean, it was made of stone, but now it's made of economics, now it's made of money, now it's made of social status. And people do willingly sacrifice themselves for it. But in order to get rid of that shame, in order to unclench them nets, people are going over and doing fucking ayahuasca. Instead of doing the sacraments that grow beneath your feet, that grow on the sides of all the roads in this country, that have been presented itself for you for years, which is psilocybin. You get up on the morning at certain points of the year, and this shit is everywhere, man. It's everywhere, waving at you. And you just have to ignore it because you want to go to work, but it's difficult. You know, it's not easy. It's kind of you suffer through it. Like it's not necessarily enjoyable, man. You sacrifice yourself as much as you want. I don't. The psilocybin doesn't really want you to do that. Like it only seems to get easier when you engage with the desire of that fungus, and it is the desire of the fungus. And the desire of the fungus is the desire for ascension, right? Ayahuasca has to shut off your gut instincts before you will let this snake in. And when you read the accounts of these people who've done this fucking medicine, they call it medicine as well, they're silly gooses, like this thing penetrates their body in a myriad of different ways, swims around their stomach, and then they purge. That's what they're calling it. They're calling it a purge, man. They're not purging it, man. They're being raped by a snake, and it's busting its fucking nuts in their guts, and then they puke this green bile out. It's snake jizz, man. It's fucking snake jizz. Oh my god. You don't get that with psilocybin, or you might puke or something like that, but it's only if you've been eating a ton of shitty food, like, but there's no requirement. It's not a purge, and it's not taking your ego away, it's taking your shame away, and the shame of being penetrated by a snake. And then when you start doing the snake dance and put that serpent on your head, like, and fucking enchanting other people, then you'll be rewarded in that pyramid. And you'll be promised things, and they get it as well. Like they do, they get moved up the social hierarchy, and they think it's because of them. Oh, I've got rid of my ego now. You've not got rid of your ego. You've separated yourself from the rest of your kind. Like you've turned your back on your own people. I mean, you can go over and look at Egypt all you want, but if you take a look around Britain, you take a look around the standard of architecture, you take a look at any of these council estates. There are buildings in this place, in every town, that are old, man. That are a lot older than the history that's ascribed to them. An awful lot older, and they had a greater purpose than the one that we are currently told about. The idea that science has been what's discovered everything is nonsense. It's nonsense. It's an enchantment, and it's snake magic. Numbers have caused these people to believe that science is the be-all and end-all. It really isn't. Like science built up after a 200-year destruction post 1688 of British society. I mean, this society was absolutely devastated for 200 years, and it was done through abuse, through rampant intergenerational systemic abuse carried out by secret societies that had also been dominated by maybe a snake, or maybe a spider as well, like, because that snake said he got chased here by something, man. If that's what it told Graham Hancock anyway, it was getting hunted across the universe by something, like, but I think it's more likely that two things have just tapped into the realm of consciousness and then worked out the way for fucking tag teamers. So the snake goes over to the east and the spider comes over to the west, and then they ultimately work together for some greater unifying goal. But since the Egyptians took a pot shot, since the Egyptians took a pot shot of the alchemist, that switched the polarity of the planet. See, before the planet, the sky was red. Before that happened, the sky was red. And you could see the machinations of the universe. There was a much, much greater level of consciousness on this planet then than there was now. There was less space, a lot less space. Less space, more consciousness, less space. Less consciousness, more space. If you think things are getting bigger, that's not because everything's getting bigger or everything's getting older. It's because the consciousness on this planet is shrinking, and it's been shrunk so we can be turned into quarry for that fucking snake. Wow, what a rambling rant this is, like. Jesus Christ, you want to make yourself look like a crazy person, start telling people you fall from the sky after being chucked out by an interdimensional chemical fucking monkey and managed to see the Egyptian pyramid used as a fucking blowtorch to kill the blacksmith of the alchemists. I'm not even going to tell you what that fucking looks like from the other side as well, like, go and look at that yourself. I don't want to die, man. See you later.